Hello, how are you?
Tyrannosaurus Rex. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Tyrannosaurus Rex. I put the terror in Tyrannosaurus Rex. I was walking through the jungle on a Saturday night. I was feeling kind of fruity. I was up for a fight when I saw a couple of fellas walking to me. I kicked one in the face. I beat the other one's knee. Is this really me? Is this the way it has to be? My daddy told me it's the way it's always been. Is this really me? Is this the way it has to be? My daddy told me it's the way it's always been. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Tyrannosaurus Rex. Tyrannosaurus Rex. I put the terror in Tyrannosaurus Rex. I woke up in the morning feeling pretty bad, reminding myself of the words of my dad. He said, son, you're a Rex like me. It's written in the stars, it's your destiny. Is this really me? Is this the way it has to be? My daddy told me it's the way it's always been. Is this really me? Is this the way it has to be? My daddy told me it's the way it's always been.
Hello, my name's Jim Parkyn. I am one of this year's Encounters Film Festival animation judges and also Bristol-based model maker and the person behind Community Claytime. Now, inspired by the amazing films I've seen this year, I thought I'd have a go at making my own plasticine T-Rex. Now, this is what we're going to be making today, and you can follow along as well. So we have everything we need to make our dinosaur here. We have some nice yellow to make a nice base to stand our dinosaur on, and we've got a series of balls of clay ready to make all the constituent parts of our T-Rex type dinosaur. We've also got some black and white there, and that's going to make the eyes, teeth and pupils. You might also want to use sculpting tools if you have any to hand, or cocktail sticks would do the same thing as well. And they'll also help put him together and make him stand on his base. So I'm going to take this piece here first of all. We're going to make the head of our T-Rex. So we're going to start with an egg shape. So warm up your clay, get it nice and warm, and you're going to roll it into a kind of egg shape. So we want a nice round end and slightly pointed end, like so. So you can roll it in your hands, a bit of a V shape, and that will help just to give us that initial shape. Now you can get your fingers in there as well and prod it around. So we want a lovely round nose. And what I'm going to do then is take that kind of egg shape. I'm not worried about it being too smooth at this stage. I'm going to then pinch out a little bit around the top here, if you can see what I'm doing, look, and just squeeze out a bit of an eyebrow. I'm also going to give a little bit of a press around there to make his snout a little bit more pronounced as well. So we're giving him a little bit of a back to the head, and also a nice kind of brow to give some expression. We're going for a quite cartoony look for this one. As I say, inspired by watching the animations this year. I thought, why not make a nice dinosaur? What excuse do you need, really? So there we have it. A nice dinosaur-like head, ready to go, with a large nose and plenty of space to put a mouth on there later on. So we're going to do it in bit by bit like so, and then assemble it. So I'm going to now make the main body of my dinosaur, which is by this part, which is about 1.5 times the size of his head, or thereabouts. Again, you can change the proportions, and it's completely up to you how you do this, but get the clay nice and warm. That's the main thing. Get the clay as warm as you can. And I'm going to squeeze out a bit of a neck. So there we have our neck. And that's going to stop his head from resting on his shoulders. And then I'm going to start to pinch out a tail on the other end. Now, a nice long tail, because that's going to act as a kind of counterbalance to his head. And again, I'm going to roll it in my hands a little bit, like a bit like a root vegetable, essentially. So I'm making quite a lengthy tail, quite a sturdy tail, and then I can roll it a little bit more in my fingers. At this stage we don't really need to use any tools. That looks pretty good. So we're going to have a little bit of a chest on the front, and then a good long tail. There we go. Not looking bad at this stage. So I think that's going to look pretty good. So what I'm going to do now actually is take a cocktail stick. Now you could use a whole one, depending on how long your neck is, or a half one. Choice is yours. I'm going to snap that in half. Like so. Now you might find that you have a little bit of a rough section there. So you can just tidy that up, and we're going to put that into the end of the neck and leave a little bit poking out. So this is going to pin our dinosaur head on. So it looks a little bit like a novelty candle at this stage. And I'm going to pin just about here, really, so you can make a bit of a dot as to where I want it to be. And then I'm going to push the two bits of clay together, like so. I'm then going to smooth in from the neck onto the back of the head and merge it together. We're knitting the clay back together again. Can you see? I'm just pushing the clay around, smoothing it into one nice piece of clay, so we can't see the join, essentially, is the idea of this. And again, just pressing around, get your fingers in there and just really push the clay. Be quite firm with it. There we go, and we already have quite a nice dinosaur shape, forming that classic kind of cartoon dinosaur shape. There we go. Quite happy with that at this stage, I think. So I'm just going to push that around, make sure I'm happy with it, ready to move on to the next stage, which is putting those little forearms on. So I have two similar sized balls of clay here, about the size of a good marble or a Malteser. And what I'm going to do is roll these into carrots. I'm going to roll on the table. That's really useful to make a kind of nice green carrot shape. And what I'm going to do then is use a cocktail stick. I'm just going to split the end, pointed end of that carrot down the middle and tease it out to make two fingers. T-Rex is kind of famous for that, so we're going for a nice T-Rex style dinosaur. Again, you could choose to have 3 claws or toes or fingers if you wanted to. That's absolutely up to you. And all I'm doing is spreading them apart to round them off, so we've got nice cartoon round shapes. And this green is so lovely and cartoon-like. I think it just really suits what we're doing. There we go. So there's one. Now you could put claws on this as well. I've decided to keep it kind of fairly one colour, really, and simple. And simplicity sometimes is key, really. I think for a cartoon dinosaur, I think that's going to be absolutely fine. You could put a little bit of a bend in there as well and get a bit of an elbow going if you want to. Again, find some personality and add your own character as well. So there's one. So it just remains to make the second one. So again, roll it on the table, or you could use your hands. If you put your hands in a V-like shape, turn the clay the right way around and roll it backwards and forwards like that. Very quickly you end up with a nice carrot shape. And again, I'm just going to split the end of that using the cocktail stick. Cocktail sticks make great tools. You don't have to spend a lot of money on sculpting tools when you have a pack of cocktail sticks, and you get about 100 in a pack, so you get 100 little sculpting tools or miniature knitting needles if you wanted to make tiny knitting, like a balaclava for your T-Rex or a scarf, something like that. So I'm just rounding off those shapes, and we'll come back to using that cocktail stick a bit later on to hold his legs onto his body. But for the moment, I'm quite happy with that. So we have a pair of tiny forearms, and again, you can bend the fingers over and start to get some personality in there as well. Now I'm going to attach those to the body. So about here, looks about right. Enough distance away from the head, and press it on gently, and then you can start to spread that clay again. Again, we're smoothing it in so it's all into one piece, like so. Now you might want to use a cocktail stick at this stage as a sculpting tool to work your way around and really blend in that clay. There we go. So we're just making sure it's nicely attached. Lovely stuff. There's one. And we'll do the same on the other side. Blending the two together. Again into one nice lump. And then you can tweak the neck, get your head position where you're happy with it. Or you can do that towards the end. Once you've got the teeth and the mouth on there as well, you can be really sure of where you want everything to sit. So again, just smoothing around with the cocktail stick. You can roll it as well, and that'll give you a smoother finish, or just use your fingers. Don't worry too much. There we go. Looking pretty good so far. So I think that's already got some character, some personality. Brilliant. So I'm going to lay him on his side, and I'm going to move on to the legs, and I'm going to get rid of the cocktail stick again. And this time, again, I'm going to make carrot shapes, but sturdier carrots, little fat carrot shapes, essentially, to make the legs. So there's one, and here's number two, backwards and forwards. So you've got a nice fat carrot shape. Now this is going to be the top of the leg, and this is going to be the bottom of the leg. So what I'm going to do is just push it onto the table, like so, and just give it a little bit of a flatten, so it's got a nice flat base. Now what I'm going to do is pinch out that middle toe. Now you can have it very pointy if you like, or nice soft shapes like I'm having here. So there is your middle toe, and then you can pinch out from the sides another two toes, one either side, like so. And again, you can go for more definition if you like, but I think this looks quite nice and simple. So from the bottom it should look rather like that, rather like a kind of maple leaf or a dinosaur foot. That's what we're making. And again, press it onto the table to make sure you've got a nice flat base for your dinosaur. And then you can tease up that clay a little bit more if you wish, until you're happy with the shape of your foot. I think that'll be all right for the moment. So there's one. And again, we'll do the same again. So it's repetition, squashing down the clay, like so, pinching out a middle toe, getting some definition on it, and then either side, pinching out a left and a right toe. Here we go. And again, a bit of symmetry is good. Now you can make a very definite left and right foot if you wish, or you can keep them pretty much the same. You can always offer them up to each other to make sure they're roughly the same size and the toes are facing in the right direction. I think that looks pretty good so far. So I'm now going to attach those to the body. So I think the legs will sit about there. So I'm going to push that on, and like so, and smooth it in. And again, use your fingers. If you've got a paintbrush handle, that's quite handy for little paintbrushes. Make really great sculpting tools. Or again, just use cocktail sticks. That's absolutely fine. And work the inside of the legs as well. You don't want the legs to peel away later on. So work all the way around and make sure those legs are really firmly attached. There we go, there's one. And make sure it's nicely attached, and you can just get your fingers in there and just smooth it around. Looking pretty good. And we'll add a second leg. Again, on the side, push it on and smooth it in, knitting that clay back together again into one lump. Like so. Just work your way around and make sure it's nicely attached. We don't want our dinosaur falling to pieces later on. There we go, we're already starting to see character forming, look. And just get rid of any nail marks. It's easy to get fingerprints and nail marks in there. We're going to embrace the fingerprints, but we want to get rid of any nail marks, otherwise it looks like he's been attacked by another dinosaur. That might be the look you want to go for, but not the one I'm after at this stage. So there we go, we've got a nice tail and a great big head, very much like T-Rex. Now, as I say, you could choose to perhaps put claws on, but I'm not going to bother with this. I think it looks really nice and simple as it is. Now, we need to attach T-Rex to our base. Now, I've gone for a kind of nice big egg shape, or like a half an avocado, something like that. So good flat base, and then a nice rounded shape, just because it looks interesting. Now, I'm going to stand or balance my T-Rex as he is there, and I'm going to take a cocktail stick and I'm going to snap that in half. And I'm going to work out roughly where I want my T-Rex to stand. So again, if you've got any little wispy bits, get rid of those now. Pop one in there, like so, and then work out where the other one's going to sit. Pop that on, like so. And then you can introduce those two together, and hopefully, without too much trouble, there we go. You should be able to stand your T-Rex on the base. Right, you can spend a little bit of time pushing down the feet and getting them into a nice position. There we go, I think that looks pretty good. And you can curl the tail up. That will all help as well. And just make sure it's really well bedded on at this stage. Lovely stuff. Looking good. So what I'm going to do now is add some other facial features. So I'm just going to round off his nose a little bit more. And you could poke him in the eye with a cocktail stick to make a little bit of a socket for the eyes. Or if you've got a tool like this or the end of a paintbrush, you could get in there with a tool and add a couple of eye sockets. I'm just going to make them a little bit larger than I want the eyes to be, and I'm just going to soften those edges with my fingers, and that would just give us a nice open socket. And I'm also going to use this tool then to give him a pair of nostrils, nice big holes to breathe out of, like so. And again, soften those edges with your fingers, just makes it look a little bit more natural. Although we're going for cartoony, we want to kind of leave it looking like he's a believable dinosaur. There we go. And you might want to give your hands a little wipe with a wet wipe, just to keep your dinosaur nice and clean at this stage. So I'm just going to give my hands a wipe, ready to move on to the next bit, which is eyeballs. So we can see where our dinosaur is going. So I'm going to take some white, and I'm going to take two very small balls of clay. Try and make them roughly equal if you can. And we're going to use the rest of the white for teeth. Might not even need all of it. I've got plenty of white clay there. So there we go, little tiny ball of clay. Just pop that into the eye socket like so, and hopefully your other eyeball is going to be about the same size. Roll it on the palm of your hand with your finger, and then pop that in there as well. Now you can make the eyeballs touch if you like, or you can just leave them slightly apart. Either way, it will be absolutely fine. And I'm going to take a tiny bit of black for each pupil. So I'm going to take that much and then split it in half. So very small amount really. So there we go, like a grape seed. Pop that round ball onto the eyeball and give it a gentle press. And that will then give you a nice round pupil. So the ball spreads out into a round ball, to a kind of round circle, sorry. And then same again on the other side. And press that on gently but firmly. Fabulous. Now I'm going to take a cocktail stick and just poke into the middle of the pupil. Just make a small hole in the middle there, and that just gives you a better focus point to see where exactly your T-Rex is looking. And then you can choose a bit more of a brow shape. Now you've got the eyes in there. You could make him look angry if you want to. One side up, one side down. Perhaps give him a bit of a raised eyebrow. So I'm going to put that to one side, and I have one last ball of clay, which I'm going to use. I'm going to put you to one side for a minute. Let's put you there, out of the way a minute. And I'm going to roll this ball of clay out into a long sausage, and this is going to make a mouth. So we're going to make a stick-on mouth, and roll out quite a length of it, like so. Now you could draw a mouth on, but I'm going to put a kind of cartoony sausage mouth on top because I think that'll look rather good. It means I can also embed teeth into that as well. So this is quite a nice long strip there, ready to have some teeth. So what I'm going to do is curl one end round, and that's going to be the side of the mouth, and then I'm also going to curl around the other side like so, and I'm going to use that half a cocktail stick just to cut down the middle like so. I'm going to get rid of any excess, I don't need that. So we'll take those two bits off, and we'll have our ready to go mouth ready to assemble shortly. But before I actually join those bits up, I'm going to add some teeth. So we have our shape there. I'll lose that. So we're going to make some little round carrot shapes for some big canine teeth. So little carrot shapes, like so. Give them a little bit of a press flat. And it's completely up to you how many teeth you make and how big those teeth are. I'm just going to go for a top set because I'm going to curl that lip, the bottom lip, underneath that top set of teeth. So I might go for 4 or 5 teeth, I think. Now you could make them bigger and smaller and have them graduate up in size, or you can have them all exactly the same. Choice is completely yours. This is the chance really for you again to add a bit of personality to your dinosaur, your T-Rex type dinosaur. Again, little carrot shapes, just squash them like so. I'm going to go for a 5th and see whether we need it or not. I think that might look rather good. Okay, we're going to get rid of that spare white clay. And again, just one last little carrot, slightly flattened, like so. So now we're ready to assemble our mouth. So what I'm going to do is put a series of teeth underneath, so underneath that loop, and add them one by one, giving them a little bit of spacing, like so. That's number 2, number 3, and just firmly pressing them onto the back of the tooth. We don't want to completely flatten that lip shape. Number 4, might just have enough space for 5 or C. There we go, might just slightly extend that bit and add that 5th tooth in. As soon as I've made it, I might as well use it. There we go. And let's add that in, and now we can join that loop up. So I'm going to give it a little squidge together, and then smooth it together. So again, you could use sculpting tools. You can use your fingers to start off with, and then perhaps use a cocktail stick to get in there. Try not to damage your teeth at the same time. It's a little fiddly, but worth spending the time doing. So again, just smoothing the clay together around the back, around the sides. Roll it in your fingers and get a nice uniform shape. And then what I'm going to do is hide that underneath the teeth, like so. So I'm going to position the teeth where I'm happy with them, and then I'm going to put them in a kind of a smile shape, I think. It's going to be a friendly T-Rex. Again, just adjusting the teeth as you go into a kind of carnivorous smile. There we go, I think that looks pretty good. I'm now going to attach that to the mouth, to the face of my T-Rex. And you can really give him a funny expression at this stage. Could be a look of menace, could be a look of surprise. But there we go, I think that looks rather good, personally. There we go, and we can just straighten those teeth out so they're not too curly. I don't want a curly toothed carnivore. There we go, I think that looks a pretty formidable set of teeth. There we go. Now you can accessorize, so you could add extra things. So you could add a bigger brow, or you can really give them a bit of a slightly more angry looking brow there. You could add spots, you could add stripes. As I say, you could add some claws on there as well. But I think that looks pretty good. So there we have our finished dinosaur. As I say, you can accessorize if you like, but I think I'm pretty pleased with that. So there you have it.